Buenas, bienvenidos a este vídeo de unplandivino.net. Vamos a ver este taller de la ley del deseo, que es como una guinda para todo lo que hemos visto así de estos primeros talleres de la ley del causa-efecto, de la atracción, del taller del miedo, el de la ira, súper importante, y este es como una guinda, ¿verdad? Y vamos a saludar, vamos a verlo con dos personas, gracias. Y Claudia, que está en Patagonia, creo que el último día, que me ha ayudado, me ha dado el primer borrador, digamos, pasándolo por el traductor automático, unas horitas que te estuviste con el teléfono y luego yo me he estado otras horitas poniéndole imágenes aquí, como veis el PDF. No sé si estáis con la pantalla activa. Bueno, saluda a tu público, Claudia.
Sí, gracias Iván. Saludos a todos, a todas quienes nos acompañan. La verdad es que sí, es un placer ahora que empecé a hacerlo. Y dentro de todo, para lo que son la extensión de otros documentos, no es tan extenso, pero sumamente intenso hacia adentro. La verdad es que sí, me gustó muchísimo
Sí,
el documento y la experiencia que me trajo a mí. Sí, gracias.
Vale, y estamos también con Ana desde Venezuela. ¿Estás ahí? ¿Qué tal?
Hola Iván, feliz día, muchas gracias. Bueno, la ley del deseo es tan importante.
Sí.
Porque constantemente tenemos el deseo desde que quieres tomar agua hasta por cosas mínimas y es importante saber usarla a un alcance mayor. Gracias, Iván.
Pues gracias. Y vamos entonces a respirar mucho en la barriga y a beber toda el agua que queráis y a hablar con vuestros desencarnados y a contárselo a ellos también, sean los que sean. Y pues paramos dentro de un buen rato. Este primer vídeo dura solo 35 minutos, puede ser un buen momento para detenernos después. Y luego la segunda parte dura 2 horas y hasta donde lleguemos. Hoy, a ver qué tal, haciendo paradas y cortes, pero no, o sea, pero un largo rato no, para que dure un poco. Y bueno, pues ahí vamos. Ya me decís si va muy rápido o muy lento, y si se oye mal me lo decís también. Si se oye bien, pues nada, ahí seguimos. Vale, entonces.
And that you know exactly what my intentions are. I don't want to boss anybody around. I have hard enough trouble bossing me around.
Que aquí está hablando de algo del taller, que no lo tienen completo, el discurso sobre algo que le ha pasado, que le han intentado mandonear por ahí, que sería el boss around ese. Y ya dice, ya tengo bastante problema con la gente haciéndome eso por ahí.
And in fact, in the end, you don't even want to boss yourself around anymore, is it? So,
Y esas
all
cosas.
right, what's the time? Okay, let's get on to the subject we're here for. As per usual, I've got no idea what I'm going to say, but we'll see how we go.
Creo que ha dicho como que no sé si, algo así como que no sé si tengo mucha idea de lo que vamos a decir, pero vamos ahí, vamos adelante. Dio broma.
One of God's primary laws to understand if you want to enjoy your life is the law of desire. You could call it also perhaps the law of passion. And I don't use passion in the negative sense of crisis, but rather passion in the sense of like having huge, passionate desire. But this law is a major part of our soul being activated. And if we don't understand how it influences us emotionally, and spiritually, and influences our relationship with God, often we will flounder with many, many times of feeling quite despondent on the divine love path. You receiving God's love, in fact, is totally about this law. Let's look at how that works. He is your soul. He is God's soul. What causes God's love to enter your soul? Having a desire for it. The desire for divine love causes the Holy Spirit, God's active force, if you like, that is of the highest order. It is, in fact, the way God transmits her love to her children. And so, therefore, it's the highest possible, and that's why we call it in the spirit world the Holy Spirit. Because it's the highest possible active force of God. And that Holy Spirit connects through this aspect of desire. That's what it means to have a longing for divine love. It means to have a desire, a passionate desire to be loved by God, and also, of course, to love God. Now, remember there were three things we need on the divine love path to progress. Remember what those three things primarily are. A longing for, right, so a longing, remember we're going to use it, a longing for divine love, a longing for divine truth, and what's the third? What's humility? Yeah, it's actually a longing to experience your own emotions, isn't it? A passionate desire to experience your own emotions. Can you see in each case how much desire is in place? Can you see that? And can you see too, if I don't have a desire, for instance, to feel my own emotions, then straight away I'm blocking emotion. If I don't have a desire to experience divine truth, then I'm blocking truth. If I don't have a desire to receive divine love, then I'm never going to be able to receive divine love, because it's desire that activates God's soul. Your desire activates God's soul. When your desire is harmonious with love, truth, and emotion, your desire accesses God's soul. Now that's pretty powerful, really, isn't it, to understand and think about and ponder about. Because all of these people say, you know, how complicated it is, how much meditation you've got to do to get it with God and become blissful, and, you know, you've got to meditate 3-4 hours, not medicate, meditate, probably interchangeable words, but anyway, and meditate 3 or 4 hours a day to receive divine love and so forth. And in reality, it's not about the meditation and the blanking of yourself out or anything. It's about your passionate desire. And when you think about it, every time anyone around you has a passionate desire, Don't you find it quite wonderful? Do you find that sort of resonates with you in your soul, like when somebody else has a passion? It doesn't, like someone's got a passionate desire for their motor car. Right? You just sit back sometimes and just smile at yourself when you hear them have to express their desire, don't you? Because it just amazes. It's amazing the transformation of the person that occurs when they connect with that passionate desire. Can you see that? And that happens in all sorts of aspects of their life. A passionate desire to have a family. Now, there will be a high likelihood this family will be brought up in a manner that's harmonious with love. If you don't really care about having children and you have one, how do you feel then? Not very, very passionately desirous of having the child, so therefore there's this blockages to actually then having the child grow up with an environment of love. Desire enters every aspect of your being, if you think about it. Now, why do you eat something? Because there's this feeling inside that generates a feeling that I need, that I want to have something inside of me, food, to fill it. Now, sometimes that feeling will be an emotional injury, but it's still based around a desire that drives you, right? So in the end, it is a desire that is driving even the desire to eat food. Because if you didn't have that desire, would you bother eating? Probably not, would you? If imagine God made you that you felt full all the time. So you'd look at this great big beautiful platter of, you know, fruit, vegetables and other dishes, right? And you look at it and you go, okay, and then walk off, right? Now, if your body needed food but you didn't have a desire for it at all, what's going to happen to your body eventually? You just wither away, and who knows? Sometimes it depends how connected with God. It might take a few years, but other times just a few months, and you're pretty much a skeleton, right? That's what anorexia is all about, the resistance of food due to emotional reasons, isn't it? So of course, it's desire that generates even desire for food. And of course, we can have desires that are disharmonious with love and truth. Or we can have desires that are harmonious with love and truth, can't we? We can have either. Now, the ones that are disharmonious with love and truth, when we act upon them, they have a certain flavour in terms of their result, compared with desires that are harmonious with love and truth. And we'll talk about the different flavour that results from those two desires. But you can see how if we want to connect to even to God and receive divine love, which is the transforming thing that transforms our soul, we are going to need to understand desire. Right? We're going to need to understand what affects desire, what controls desire within us, and how we can grow desire. Can you see that? We're going to need to understand those things. If we don't understand those things, how are we going to grow this connection with God if it's all based on desire? So the law of desire is a really important thing to understand, and desire and passion is something very important to develop within yourself. Now, a few weeks ago, I asked to actually have an attempt to feel some of your desires, and I know some of you did that, to feel some of your desires and start acting upon them. And one of the things you would have noticed is that when you started acting upon desires that were harmonious with love, you automatically felt some more joy in your life as a result. Right? And this is something we need to come to understand too, that when we act upon our desires that are harmonious with love and truth, then joy results. There's an automatic result when we act upon desires harmonious with love and truth. So let's just draw that little equation up on our, if we want to have joy or happiness in our life, we must discover our desire. This is proviso that we want to make sure it's harmonious with love and truth. Then we want to act upon it. And if we do all of that, we will have joy. So you could say joy equals discovering your desire plus acting, making sure it's harmonious with love and truth, and then acting upon it. We add those three together, joy will result. In our lives. Let's write another equation. Equals discovering desire plus being disharmonious with love and truth and acting upon it. Can you see it's almost the same equation with one primary difference? The primary difference is the harmony with divine love and truth. So if we look at this aspect of joy and we look at this aspect of pain, we see that God automatically created a feedback system. Do you understand what I mean by a feedback system? Well, in electronics, the feedback system is used to stop things from going into squealing at you. So, for example, you know the sound system here. This sound system has a thing called a phase lock loop amplifier, which is getting my voice and putting it into an electronic signal. And what it does with my signal is it amplifies my signal, but to stop the signal from being amplified so much that it blows up the amplifier, there's a feedback system there that makes sure that it's kept within a certain range. That make sense? And this is what God has done with our desire. God has given us a feedback system so that we can actually see where the ranges of our desire that is safe to us and the ranges of our desire that are unsafe to us. And the feedback system is joy and pain. Does that make sense to everyone? Yeah? So when I'm feeling pain, my feedback system is telling me that there is something about my desire here that's out of harmony with love and truth. So, for example, quite often people come up and say to me, oh, we've just broken up for a relationship and I'm devastated. Right? I'm devastated that we've just broken up. And, you know, I want them to be with me, but they don't want me. And I feel really devastated. So devastation, would you classify it as a joy or a pain? So we've got pain. So we know we're in the pain. So straight away we know, because of the pain, that there must be something about a desire that's disharmonious with love and truth that I have that would cause me to feel this pain. Otherwise, I wouldn't feel the pain of this breakup. And people then say to me, that makes no sense to me at all. They say, if I love them, of course I'm going to feel pain. And I say, well, no, that's not true at all, because every time we have pain, we're doing something in disharmony with love and truth. That can't be true. If you love someone, it doesn't automatically result in pain. In fact, if you love somebody, whether they love you back or not, it should result in your pleasure. I don't know if we can have a mic down here.
Well, how does that work when you have a desire to speak truth? So just say, well, actually last night I decided to speak truth to a guy that I've known for a couple of years. And I decided to tell him that I feel that he needs attention from me. So that was my desire, to be more honest with him. But then it resulted in me feeling, yes, sort of like pain in a way, because I felt like, because he couldn't understand why I felt he was needy. And
so what we're saying is, you tried this equation, and what ended up was the pain equation for you.
yeah.
So the pain equation, you started with what you believed was a pure desire to speak truth. Is that desire harmonious with love and truth? Yes, of course it is. And you acted upon it, did you not? Yes. And yet you still got pain.
Is that just because I have an injury within me that I need to release?
I'll tell you why it's happening.
Yeah.
That desire was a pure desire, and it wasn't that desire that caused you the pain. Because this is the equation that always causes joy, and you were in that equation. So the pain must be the result of another desire.
Tú estabas en esa, refiriéndose a la del dolor. Esa se refiere a la del dolor.
No, I wish I didn't ask this question. Oh, no.
So what's the real desire that you felt the pain about? You gave the clue in your statement.
Oh, maybe that he misunderstood.
He misunderstood me.
Yeah.
He misunderstood me. So what was my desire? I wanted him to understand.
Okay.
Him to understand. To understand. Now, is that desire harmonious with truth and love?
No. No.
Why?
Because that's me having an expectation.
Yes. And that was the cause of your pain. Can you see the difference?
Yeah.
You see, a lot of times what we do with our emotions is we think we're in this equation. But the pain is telling us we're in a totally different equation. Does that make sense to everyone? Lots of realizations happening here, so that's very good. You see, a lot of times we want to tell ourselves that we're doing something with a pure desire. And a lot of times we do actually act upon a pure desire, but at the same time, we have another desire playing that ain't so pure. And it's that desire that caused us the pain, not the truth desire. You see, and this is why the feedback system is very good, because we can see, I'm in pain. I must have had a desire that was out of harmony with truth and love. I need to discover it. I need to know what that desire was, because if my desire was harmonious with truth and love, I wouldn't feel the pain of it by its expression. Does everyone get that? Yeah? So, you can start seeing now that oftentimes we tell ourselves we're in this equation, but the result is equaling pain, which is telling us automatically that we're not in that equation, we're in something else playing. If we have Mike over there.
AJ, I find that this area is very tricky because for a good part of my life, I thought I was in the first equation. And certain desires that I would have, I would act upon, and to the best of my ability at the time, I thought I was in harmony with love and truth. And I'd act upon the desire, and it wouldn't equal pain. It would actually bring results.
Okay.
It would bring positive results, whether it was filling me up emotionally or producing results in the physical, but it was, I realized it was the pain was suppressed.
Let's define pain.
Yeah.
I'm reverting back to my childhood now. So.
Aquí se ríen porque parece que ha escrito dibujar o bueno, que no es algo que no lo ha escrito bien y parece que estoy volviendo a la infancia, dice aquí.
Let's define pain. Pain is anything that causes you pain in your long-term future, in your short-term future, in your current state, in your physical body, in your spirit body or in your soul. That's fairly comprehensive, isn't it? You see, what most of the time we do on the earth is we only look at the physical or immediate emotional benefits to what we do. But we have very little consideration of the longer term effects. Right? So let's, how did I just define pain? I can't remember. It's long term, that's right, long term, short term, immediate, physical, emotional, spiritual, or soul based pain. Now, many people say to me, oh, I'm doing everything in harmony with love and truth all my life, and look, I've got cancer now. That's telling you pain is, in this case, we've got a physical pain. We are doing things out of harmony with love and truth. Whether we know it or not, it's immaterial. Like, I've got an ache in my leg. What's that? Some pain. Straight away, I'm out of harmony, physical, so I know it. Emotional, what might be in a relationship, the relationship breaks up. I've been in a relationship for 5 years and I just found out he was cheating on me. We had such a happy relationship. I'm sorry, but that's not true. You know, that's what you'd like to believe for 5 years, obviously. But if he was cheating on you for 5 years, your relationship was completely fake. Right? And therefore, for 5 years, we've been experiencing pain that we've been ignoring. Because the truth is, if I was emotionally connected with this person, man or woman, I would know something's wrong, would I not? So therefore, I wasn't emotionally connected with them, and I was ignoring the emotional connection because I'm ignoring my emotional pain. And sooner or later, some other pain occurs, and that shows me that I was in ignorance in the end. So sooner or later, pain will come to my life if I'm in a state of disharmony with something. You can measure it immediately only if you are in a completely open emotional state. Other than that, you will never be able to measure the pain immediately. And in fact, the majority of times, you'll even feel some of your pain is good. Because in the end, a lot of us have addictions. And we'll talk about addictions at another time for a full discussion. But the truth is that if I have an unhealed emotional addictions inside of myself, I am already in a state of pain. Can you see that? So let's say I'm alone and I've got no one in my life And my addiction is I've got to have someone in my life. I've got to have someone in my life. I've got to always have a man in my life or a woman in my life. For me to be happy, let's say. Right? Now, if I just sat by myself in this state where I'm alone, I would be able to feel that pain. If I'm honest with myself. Does that make sense? But most of us are not very honest with ourselves because we want to avoid our pain. Right? And that's called denial, which is a totally different subject to what we're discussing about. Denial is when we choose to avoid our pain in order to receive something. So if I'm in a state of denial, what I will do is I'll go out and enter a relationship that I think I desire. I think my desire is harmonious with love and truth even. Perhaps, but it's not, because it began from an addiction, which if I had been sitting down by myself and just feeling, I would have felt it as pain. You see, a lot of the times what we do is we start to feel our pain, and then what do we do with that? We want someone else to make it go away. And not just someone else. You know, why do you think alcohol abuse is such a big problem? Because we often choose something else or someone else to make our pain go away. Because the truth is, if you were in a state of bliss, do you think you'd want to go and take some ecstasy every night? Why would you want to do that if you're already in a state of bliss? And you see, I'm exercising a desire, but the truth is, right before I exercise a desire, I'm not even allowing myself to feel my own pain yet. And if I exercise a desire, even if I think it's harmonious with love and truth, and I'm starting from a position of pain, things are not going to work out so good because I'm going to be exercising a desire that's disharmonious with love and truth. Because let's define disharmonious with love and truth. Every time I deny my own soul's emotions, I am in disharmony with love and truth. Right. So I can think that I'm living in passion and desire, but often not be living in passion and desire that's harmonious with love and truth. And quite often we can have exactly the same desire and yet one result in pain and the other in pleasure. And the reason why is, if we begin the desire from a place of pain, we will always result in more pain. Well, let me illustrate that. I might have a desire to give you the divine truth. Is that a pure desire or not? Well, it may not be, because what's my intention? See, if my intention is to manipulate and control you for the rest of your life, and make you dependent upon me. For a start, I'm not giving you divine truth anymore, am I? But if that was my desire, then the results are going to be pain, is it not? And yet I could say to you, I'm here giving this love and truth to you. Isn't this wonderful? Aren't I a wonderful person? Just so lovely, and all those kind of things. And you could even begin feeling that. And yet in the end, I might have an intention that's damaging.
Aquí ha dicho, e incluso podríais empezar a sentir eso, que es, ay, que como encantador es este chico, no sé cuántos, pero sin embargo al final yo podría tener una intención que es perjudicial.
And if my intention is such that I want to exercise my desire for my personal gain in terms of my being glorified or whatever, then straight away my desire is out of harmony with love and truth. And that will result in pain for me. You see that? So we need to actually allow ourselves to examine our desire and see the difference between it being in harmony with love and truth and being out of harmony with love and truth. And sometimes we can seduce ourselves. You know what it's like to be seduced?
¿Sabéis cómo es ser seducido? No seducirse a sí mismo. Ahí dice ser seducido. Eso no lo he corregido.
And some of you might have been sexually seduced in your life, or seduced into a business that eventually went bad, or seduced into doing something, that when you were a child, remember during your teenage years when you went out and did something that later on turned out to be pretty stupid and you felt pretty embarrassed about? Often we get seduced by peer pressure, do we not, into doing things? Well, in the end, what we really get seduced with is our own addiction. And every time we're seduced, we are not in a state of love and truth. And we're also not in a state of pure desire. Because we're just doing really what somebody else wanted us to do. And that's pointless on this path, isn't it? What you want to do is work out what you want to do and then do that. And if that's harmonious with love and truth, then you're going to experience the joy of acting upon that. If that's disharmonious with love and truth, you're going to experience the sorrow that results from acting upon that. Go right up the back, please.
Hi, AJ. Something I've done a bit in my life and I really don't want to do anymore is having a desire, probably in both of those equations, in harmony or out of harmony, and not acting. Can you talk about that?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's very important to act upon your desire for a lot of reasons. You see, if you act upon a desire that you believe to be harmonious with love and truth, and you act upon the desire, the equals part, the effect part, pain or joy, will tell you whether it was harmonious with love and truth or not. Does that make sense? But if you choose not to act at all, how are you ever going to know whether your desires were harmonious with love and truth at all?
Yeah, it's a pretty painful place.
It is a very painful place. And when we don't act, that is because of terror and fear, all right? And that is telling us that we actually do have terror and fear inside of us that we need to address. Now, what would be some reasons or some fear-based reasons of why you wouldn't want to act? You want to give some personal feelings about that?
Just fear of making a mistake, you know, doing the wrong thing.
All right, let's look at making a mistake. That was the first one. Doing the wrong thing. Let's look at making a mistake. Where would that have come from? Where would that have come from? Well, what happened when you were little when you made a mistake? Well, I know what happened to me, and most of the time it was the corporal punishment system, right? When you made a mistake, right? So I was there, you know, at school, writing with my left hand, and every time somebody caught me doing it, whack across the fingers, right? So mistake, you know, right with my right hand now. Like, so straight away, a fear of making mistakes comes from this feeling inside of me that I'm going to be punished and hurt. So that needs to be released emotionally from me before I'm going to act. Or you could choose to act and allow that fear to pop up straight away, because it will pop up pretty much straight away.
Yeah, I'm hoping to do that in the near future.
Yeah, good.
From now on.
Yeah. So there's a few different ways you can handle the system, isn't there? Like knowing that if you act, there is always going to be a result. Now, if the result is pain, and we think we were acting harmonious with love and truth, then there has to be some disharmony in there for there to be some pain. I'll give you an example. I've decided that I'm going to act in harmony with love and truth all my life. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell everybody that I'm Jesus, right? This was a decision I made 5 years ago or so. Because that's who I am, you know, and so I've just got to tell everyone the truth. So I go to the first persons and tell them the truth. That was my boys, my sons, my 2 sons, Tristan and Caleb. And they reacted pretty well. Right? There was not too much drama there, and Caleb said to me, yeah, I think it's probably right, actually. And Tristan said, well, I'll give you 3 months and we can work it out. But either way, it was pretty, you know, even-handed sort of. There was no physical pain for me. That was interesting. So I go along to the next person. Tell them the truth. That's my mother, right? My mother coming to visit me. And now there's like a fair bit coming at me, right? So there's some condescension, and then there's like worry, and then I can feel her going to this state of, oh, no, he's going to kill someone or kill himself or whatever. And, you know, there's going to be a Kool-Aid thing down the track somewhere, and like all those kind of things coming up for her inside of her mind. Of course, she never voiced any of these things aside from some of the condescension and some of the worry about my state of mind. I come away from that feeling like that was quite painful.
Aquí ha dicho, en realidad, creo más bien, así que salí de eso sintiendo como, eso era bastante doloroso. Salí de ahí sintiendo eso, esto hay que quitarlo. Bien.
What was my problem? Yeah, the pain wasn't the result of me saying the truth. The pain was the result of me getting rejected. Does that make sense? So I then had to go in to feel the rejection, because that's the emotional error that I need to release. And the pain was a result of me being treated condescendingly by my mother. So I had to actually go into that emotion, because that's been there a lot of my life too. And I had to go into that emotion and release that emotion. And another painful part of it was that she then decided that it was too much for her to handle, and she wanted to tell some other people about it, who then got her to tell some psychiatrists about it, who then got her to tell my doctor about it, who then, when I went in to get an insurance assessment so that I get some extra loans, he denied my assessment, which means that my business just went bang. That was quite painful. What was my problem? Why was it painful to lose my business? Because I'd built up like, $3.5, $4 million worth of property. I thought I was going quite good. I was going to keep going for a little bit longer and finish off some deals and whatever else. And it was painful because I didn't want to feel all that was a waste. I just didn't want to feel an emotion. So I had to feel that emotion. Then I had to feel the emotion of being betrayed by my mother. I had to feel that emotion. Can you see? Those painful emotions weren't the result of me acting in harmony with love and truth. They were actually the result of me having an unhealed emotional error in me that was confronted by the act of truth, and that was the result of the pain, and I had to feel the pain.
Y ese error emocional no sanado en mí da como resultado el dolor. Así que tuve que sentirlo. Esto se puede uno malentender esta frase, pero bueno, más o menos.
See, a lot of times what happens is we go and tell the truth with the expectations that we currently have emotionally involved with that. And when those expectations are not met, we feel the pain of the expectation not being met. That's telling me that it was great that I told the truth, but some of my other desires, the expectations that I had, were in this category. In disharmony with love and truth. Does that make sense? Right. Well, what we'll do now is we'll have a break, and I want to continue this subject of discussing about desires and all the different aspects of.
Así que ahora dice, vamos a hacer el corte y ahora seguimos conversando sobre estos temas.
Desire.
Bueno, entonces resulta que tienes un deseo y pruebas hacer algo y se te resulta en dolor. La trampa en la que estamos todo el planeta es que pensamos que muchas veces que ese deseo está mal, cuando lo que está mal es los deseos subyacentes que en realidad están motivando y que no queremos ver, que dependen de las heridas, ¿no? Así que esto es muy simple, pero a la vez es muy profundo, como siempre, ¿no? ¿Estáis vivas?
Sí. Vos sabés, Iván, que mira, yo traduje el borrador, lo leí, no sé, 2 o 3 veces, porque sentí el deseo de conectar con este documento, que ya me lo había pasado Ana justamente antes, pero lo sentí cuando leí el de crianza, donde decía que uno de los roles de los padres en la tierra era enseñar las leyes de Dios y, por ejemplo, explicarle a un niño la ley de la atracción y la ley del deseo. Y
sí.
ahí sentí el deseo. Contaba esto, ¿no? Como una secuencia un poco. Y ahora recién, y después, bueno, lo busqué, porque no tengo el ordenador donde Ana me lo había descargado yo, entonces lo busqué, lo llevé al DIL, que es un poco el trabajo que estoy aprendiendo de vos a hacer, porque realmente, como decís vos, hay que ser fiel a la verdad. Entonces, lo hice, ¿no? Como pude, bueno, vos hiciste la otra parte. Pero aún así, ahora es muy distinta la experiencia en cada caso y con cada emoción, básicamente, ¿no? Con la actitud y todo. Porque lo estuve mirando, tiendo a ser muy intelectual, así que lo estuve viendo, hice así un poco todo un esquema, inauguré un cuaderno, comprendí mi ausencia de deseo, de la desconexión, o sea que estoy deseando todo el tiempo sin darme cuenta, que ahora después en la otra parte se va a profundizar. Pero quería esquematizar un poco esto de lo que pasó. Yo estoy viviendo, digamos, en este momento la decisión y mi deseo de irme de mi casa. Para si alguien no me conoce, digamos, tengo 50 años, soy madre de 5 hijos y todos ya adultos. Ana Paula es la más pequeña, que tiene 20, pero en agosto cumpliría los 21. Quedarían a cargo de su padre, que aceptó el trato. Yo me voy de la casa con la intención justamente de vivir y tener una relación con Dios, lo que demanda un modo de vida muy distinto a ellos, y para no confrontar, elegí irme yo. Me pareció que era el momento. Bueno, por supuesto que aparentemente nadie me creyó, porque toda mi vida fue en sentido contrario. Primero, que mis deseos siempre estaban supeditados por las adicciones, como dijo Jesús, seducción igual adicción, lo anoté porque yo hice eso, lo seduje, decía, a todos, tenía una red de personas que me adoraban, entre comillas, por mi exagerada bondad, entre comillas la bondad también. Y bueno, pero entonces ahora no era creíble que mamá se iba a ir, ¿no? No encajaba en la historia. Bueno, entonces mi hija ya en un modo, ya como que bueno, estoy volviendo, como dijiste al principio, en mi último día entre Leu. Mañana es mi último día, miré mal la fecha, el 1 de febrero es martes. Mañana es mi último día entre Leu, pero como ya, bueno, terminala con esto, cortala, mamá, vení a casa y déjate de joder, basta ya, ¿no? Como un poco. Tengo que aclarar que con esa hija la usé de bastón, usé a todos mis hijos, pero a mi hija especialmente en este último tiempo, con Ana Paula. Entonces, claro, yo digo, voy a expresar mi deseo, como dijo la primer chica, y voy a decir la verdad. Y le voy a decir la verdad. Y entonces le conté que el día que el padre me ofrece hacer el trueque de viviendas, que fue el 24 de diciembre, yo sentí mucha alegría, un desborde de alegría, Iván, que cuando a mí pareciera que esa posibilidad, para mí era así como, wow, ¿en serio? Así, ¿viste? Sí, bueno. esa alegría, que sin haber leído este apunte, fue para mí un indicador de que yo quería eso. Bueno, y después lo empezamos a gestar de a poco, pero bueno, como digo, no me creían. Ayer le digo a mi hija, ya que me doy cuenta que ahora que estoy familiarizándome con el libre albedrío, me di cuenta que su forma ya era como imperativa, no tenía en cuenta mi libre albedrío, era una exigencia, entonces yo empecé a plantearle muy segura de mí la verdad de mi decisión y la alegría, y le dije lo primero que le dije, fue que yo había sentido alegría y que ese fue el indicador y que quería seguir mis deseos y que ya estaba bien, digamos, que ya había cumplido y que ella no se daba cuenta, pero que esto también era amor. Por supuesto que se enojó más todavía, incluso habló de, ay, quiero prenderle fuego a la casa, conmigo adentro.
Que puede ser un buen signo, ¿verdad? También.
Claro, por supuesto, pero todo eso a mí no me había pasado nada, Iván. En ese sentido yo sentí, ay, porque dije la verdad, porque yo no lo hubiera dicho en otro momento, como dice Jesús, hubiera sido condescendiente, yo no voy a estar tan lejos, mi amor, si voy a estar cerca, si cuando vos me necesites yo voy a ir, vamos a estar en la misma ciudad, todo eso, ¿no? Hubiera sido así como un paliativo, poniendo paño frío. Bueno, la cuestión es que yo tengo esa discusión con ella, pero me sentí muy bien en ese sentido de poder plantear por primera vez mis deseos, como dijo el Señor, siempre tuve miedo. Entonces, bueno, pero después me agarró a las 5 de la mañana, eso fue antes de ayer, sería 19:30, 20, que yo estaba cenando. A las 5 de la mañana me despierta un dolor de cabeza, así en la zona cervical y el estómago. No tenía nada porque cené a las 20, o sea, para las 5 de la mañana había pasado, no había nada en mi estómago, pero no era más que la tendencia, las náuseas, que llegué a vomitar bilis, creo que era yo, entonces me di cuenta que era el hígado. Pero realmente fue muy intenso y había algo sin darme cuenta, por eso digo, toda la vuelta que estoy dando es para decir que ahora con esta lectura recién comprendo un montón de cosas que me permite estar como de testigo, digamos. Claro, la definición de dolor y estar en un estado emocional abierto, esa frase no la tuve en cuenta, digamos, como que ahora me di cuenta. Claro, yo ayer respiraba, que llegué a hablar con vos, respiraba lo más que podía, digamos, sostener esa respiración diafragmática, porque como no es natural en nosotros, hay que hacerla, digamos, consciente. Bueno, por supuesto que el resguardo, el temblor. Y yo cuando empecé a temblar en el baño, que me temblaba el cuerpo, yo ahí me di cuenta que había otra cosa, que no era solamente eso. Me acordé del Parkinson y lo que contó Jesús, ¿no? Que temblar, cuando empieza a temblar. Entonces busqué el significado dentro de la nueva medicina germánica y apareció que es el conflicto, ellos no hablan de emociones, el conflicto biológico está dado por miedo a morir de hambre, tanto mío en primera persona o miedo a que se mueran de hambre otras personas allegadas, y da justo el ejemplo de una hija.
Pero que
entonces,
también puede ser que los desencarnados que están contigo están viviendo eso a través de ti.
Exactamente, ahí te iba a decir, porque mi papá, que yo siempre lo cuento, que tenía muchísimo miedo a no tener, y yo a mi hija, claro, a mi hija que en ese momento le estaba contando la verdad de una emoción, yo no tenía en cuenta este miedo. El dolor que aparece, como dice Jesús, dolor ya inmediato, ya sea físico, emocional, bueno, el dolor físico que fue, pero como, o sea, nada que ver hoy que te estoy hablando a lo que fue ayer. Y abrirme a sentir, porque eso también lo reconozco, porque por ahí lo que hacemos, como vino la señora a pedir una pensión, me golpeó la puerta, porque yo no hice mi rutina, levantarme y salir, y me dijo, te traigo una pataquina. No, le digo, no quiero, yo no tomo nada, algo tenés que hacer, me decía. Y le digo, no, yo voy a vivir esto, me va a llevar a algún lado, que fue así, ¿no? Gracias a poder ver el temblor en algún momento y a darme cuenta, el estado emocional abierto, y yo jamás hubiera descubierto que este miedo, a eso quería llegar, estaba operando detrás. O sea, si hay dolor, la ecuación es maravillosa y recién ahora la descubro. Si hay dolor...
Lo interpretas como que el hecho de actuar que es uno de los matices muy importantes que ha enfatizado también, es el hecho mismo de actuar, que ya has puesto también un post en Instagram de eso, cuando actúas, es cuando, bueno, actúa con miedo, porque es ahí, es cuando vas a sentirlo para atravesarlo. Sí, hay que actuar a veces para sacar ese miedo y lo interpretas como un caso de eso.
Claro, porque el dolor me indica este error emocional que está dentro tuyo, como dice Jesús, a lo último lo enfatiza bien claramente. ¿Por qué había dolor? Porque era un error emocional dentro de mí. O sea que sí o sí, lo desarmónico está cada vez, yo tengo anotado acá, a cada vez que niego las emociones de mi alma. Claro, yo iba muy oronda, yo digo la verdad acá, sí, ya se terminó, yo voy a hacer esto, voy a actuar con mi deseo, pero claro, pumba, dijo Iván, estoy negando una emoción, y la emoción que estoy negando, era la que proyecté toda mi vida, que son los 2 hijos que están en la casa justamente, con los 2 con que más énfasis. Los 4 tienen dificultades, bueno, no digo, el 5 es un aborto, pero los 4 que están vivos en la tierra tienen dificultades con asumir las responsabilidades, en la cuestión de poder emanciparse y asumir un proyecto propio. Pero los 2 mayores a la fuerza, inclusive, salieron de la casa. Estos 2 que se resisten y que están sublevados con el padre, de alguna manera están percibiendo esta dependencia, porque mi miedo está siendo proyectado de que no pueden vivir, o sea, de que no van a tener, que no van a poder subsistir. Por eso yo...
Bueno, que es tuyo y de toda una retahíla de desencarnados.
Claro, claro, y qué fuerte, porque uno piensa, ¿no? De alguna manera, ya lo resolví o terminó ahí o qué bien, como dice Jesús, no, lo lamento. Pues, claro, y es así. Me gusta mucho porque realmente, claro, uno entiende que el dolor es un mensajero y que realmente cuando te pones a mirar así, con humildad, ¿no? Con humildad, porque llega así, llega solo y en un momento nada muy importante, creo, para mí. Gracias.
Pues sí, está muy bien poderlo ilustrar, aplicar y todo eso. ¿Quieres contar tú también, Ana, alguna aplicación que se te haya venido personal o insultarnos? ¿Qué quieres? No sé si Ana está ahí, quiere insultarnos o algo. Por hablar tanto. Que somos...
Puede probar un deseo si está en armonía o en desarmonía.
Sí. Pero fíjate, ahí en esta parte, mientras Ana se vuelve a poner el micrófono,
feeling inside of me that I'm going to be punished and hurt. So that needs to be released emotionally from me.
Cuando ha hablado de ser Jesús, que se han reído la gente.
Before I'm going to act. Or you could choose to act and allow that fear to pop up straight away.
O sea, puedes elegir, ahí es el momento donde dije, elegir actuar y permitir el miedo que justo ahí va. ¿Sabes dónde dice lo de Jesús?
Knowing that if you act, be some disharmony, act in harmony with love and truth, right?
Aquí creo que es.
Is I'm going to tell everybody that I'm Jesus, right? This was a decision I made 5 years ago or so.
Y que la gente se ríe. Es que aún no calibramos lo que supone esto, ¿no? Si la verdad divina es verdad, o sea, en el 1962 cambia toda la política, por así decirlo, espiritual de este planeta, porque existe la reencarnación, entre comillas, entre muchas comillas, en muy pocos casos. Y claro, la gente se ríe, pero es lógico, pero también es que es una situación donde va a haber confrontado, pues eso, la madre, los hijos.
Hay un taller que hizo Yo Soy Jesús o
Sí.
Asúmelo, o
Claro,
no sé cómo dice, ya, asúmelo.
Sí, lidia con ello, asúmelo, y es una pena que ese no tiene la transcripción. Y de ese vimos, de la segunda sesión de ese vimos un cacho. De uno de los vídeos que subí de traducción de esta, entre comillas, simultánea, es de eso.
Ahí está Ana.
No, estoy Claro que te oí completo, Clau, bellísimo. Pero es eso, es siempre llegar a sentir intelectualmente. Fíjate, Jesús eh, lo eligió decir, yo soy Jesús, pero todavía tenía emociones ahí que trabajar, que sentirlas. Y eso es maravilloso, esta parte que está recordando Iván.
Sí, y mirad, vamos a terminarla y ahora si quieres ya sigues comentando alguna cosa que te haya venido y
No, está bien, por mí está bien.
Amen, you know?
Gracias.
And so I've just got to tell everyone the truth.
porque mira el gesto que hace
Because
aquí,
that's who I am, you know?
porque es lo que yo soy, dice ahí. O sea, la gente se acaba de reír y todo eso, vamos a ponerlo.
I made 5 years ago or so. Because that's who I am,
Porque eso es quien soy, dice.
you know? And so I've just got to tell everyone the truth.
Y simplemente le tengo que decir a todo el mundo la verdad.
So I go to the first persons and tell them the truth.
Y aquí es donde empieza eso. Fui a la primera persona, el hijo que sale por ahí. Si habéis visto,
El pelo largo de Tristan.
sí, en comparación con lo que hemos visto, que lo que hemos visto de Tristán era un año antes, más o menos. Claro, eso era. ¿En qué taller era?
Crianza.
El de crianza. Y ese es, sí, un año antes. Ahora estamos en febrero del 2010 y ese es en marzo del 2009. Sí. O sea, que se había dejado el pelo largo, se está haciendo más hippie, ¿no? Sí. Bueno, solo eso quería. Y
Y yo siento que siempre lo tenemos, bueno, en estos últimos, en realidad siempre él fue muy humilde en todos, pero en esta parte, yo la empatía que pude conectar, porque empezamos por los otros, recorriendo otros, los 2016, 2014, y acá lo que encuentro es esta pequeña trama que hace él de entretejer todo él y Mary con algo. Bueno, el de la atracción sexual fue así, el de la vida espiritual también, fue muy ellos. Y es como que me doy cuenta de lo idealizado que lo tenemos, ¿no? Y cómo es de alguna manera esta cuestión de poder él sentir, por ejemplo, ver que la fuerza de vivir, digamos, en este plano y la valentía, porque realmente fuerte lo que vive y siente, porque él decía, yo veía todas las emociones que venían de mamá hacia mí, y que ella no las reconoció ni las mencionó. Y imagino que, digamos, el embate es mucho más fuerte, siento yo, Iván, porque duele un poco más el hecho de que esto te llegue y que la otra persona no sea honesta, ¿no? Siento yo, por eso dijo la traición en este sentido también de no ser honesta y hacerlo por otro lado lo que sentía, porque es doloroso, muy doloroso.
Sí.
Entonces, claro. Y también ese señor que me gustó mucho, que él reconoció que era muy doloroso no actuar, también me pareció algo muy sencillo y muy claro, digamos, porque es como que un poco esa parálisis tenemos, ¿no? Ya sea por miedo, por terror. Bueno, yo tengo 50 años, contramano, 49.
Yo cumplo en marzo 25, cumplo 48. Y aquí está Tristán, ahí le pillé para ponerle justo cuando aparece, aunque no hable, claro, se ríe ahí y le filman, claro, y están ahí justo. Eso está muy bien, y hasta aquí hemos llegado. En las 11 primeras páginas, podemos descansar 5 o 10 minutos y intentamos hacer una orilla más de esto, si queréis. Nos estiramos un poco, ¿qué os parece?
Muy bien.
Vale, pues.
Entonces, hasta el siguiente.
Sí, despediros de los millones de suscriptores, darle algún beso a alguno que os haya escrito últimamente para agradeceros todo eso.
Sí, a trabajar los deseos. Sí.
Sí.
Y bueno, y ahí venimos con los casos que están súper jugosos en el otro. Yo ya estoy haciendo el gancho para el próximo video.
Sí, no, es que el siguiente... Ay, te iba a decir también otro gancho y se me ha olvidado cuando estábamos hablando que hay una página enterita que te la comiste porque es justo en el lugar más tenso seguramente para uno de tus problemas, entre comillas, que yo también lo tengo, que es con el dinero y con tu padre. Y es que eso justo la página enterita.
Ay,
¿qué ha pasado aquí?
me vas a dar es una patada al hígado, literal, lo que me vas a dar.
Me estaba riendo cuando lo he hecho esta mañana ahí poniendo las cosas que estaba ahí con las estas y digo, esta Clau, mira los desencarnados, mira a la abuela ahí con el padre.
Oh, con razón. Bueno, uy. Voy a pedir la patarquina a la dueña de la pensión.
Sí, tú empieza a respirar ya, agárrate ahí, atate a la silla y dentro de unos minutos eso, empezamos. Bueno, pues despídete tú también de tu público venezolano y americano.
Bueno, gracias, Iván. De verdad que es un tema que nos toca a todos, porque todos tenemos de alguna manera estos sentimientos que no sabemos expresar y cuando los expresamos mal.
Sí.
Pero el deseo, hay que partir de ese deseo. Muchas gracias.
Gracias. Venga, pues dejo de grabar y ahora quedamos un momento.